Good evening, Black people and all allies fighting for Black liberation, Black prosperity, and Black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. Moments ago, the Senate passed an increase to the country's borrowing limit by $480 billion until December 3rd. The agreement comes just about 10 days before the October 18th deadline. 11 Senate Republicans joined Democrats to break the debt limit filibuster in order to get it passed. The deal now goes to the House for a final vote. There's been a lot of debate about why Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell backed down, but however it happened, the bottom line is that the president leaned in and he got results. But his approach up till now has not been like that. It's been more laid back and behind the scenes, and that has meant that he has gotten very little done. And as a result, his approval rating is suffering. According to a new Yahoo News and YouGov poll, 42% of U.S. adults say they approve of the way President Biden is handling his job. That's not only down 3 percentage points since mid-September, it's the lowest point since Biden has been in office. When your poll numbers slide, your political capital does too. So how much political capital will the president have left when all of this fighting over the infrastructure and spending bill is done to pass things he promised Black voters, like voting rights and police reform? Joining me now to discuss is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter, LaTosha Brown, and the executive director of the Advancement Project National Office, Judith Browne Dianis. So, LaTosha, compare, what Biden did, stepped up to the plate, really leaned in, called, with what the president can do is called all of the, business leaders together and say, you put pressure on them as well as me put pressure on them. Compare that to how he's handling, voting rights protections.
He has not been a leader, I think, on voting rights protection at all. I think that at most, I think he gave a really good speech related to that. But we need more than speeches. The bottom line is SB 202, which is the Georgia law, has been enacted, that we're seeing these laws pass in legislatures all over across the nation. I am waiting and have still not seen where he has come out and made a commitment, just as he did on the infrastructure bill, to say, I'm going to use the full weight of my office as president to deliver on voting rights. This should be a layup. This should be an easy layup. Black voters literally raised his campaign from the dead. We paved the road to the White House, gave him a Senate, so at least the numbers in the Senate so that he can govern. And what we're seeing is that once again, we're seeing Black voters be a sacrifice in this process. What we're seeing is we're not hearing the fact that we're this late, that here we are in October, and we still don't have voting rights. I do think that that's indicative of a larger issue, which is why I, myself, and others are really putting pressure to say that we've got to have voting rights now. No, we can no longer wait.
Judith, we've gotten over this bump right now, at least temporarily, of lifting the debt limit, but the infrastructure bill is still hanging out there. Biden has signaled very clearly that is his priority. That could also still take months to get done if it ever gets done. How much time do we have to wait on getting voting rights protections on the books? You're already getting into the midterms. We're 1 year out. That means that people are already deciding they're going to run. They're already raising money. They're already doing campaign stops. At a certain point, more states will come in with their maps. You'll be running in the districts that they have drawn. That's the only option you'll have, unless the court puts a stop to it and says you have to run in other districts. And eventually you'll be having to print ballots. How much time do we have to wait for them to prioritize other things over voting rights?
Well, Charles, you hit the nail on the head. Tick, 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 tick. Time is up, President Biden. We're in a moment where, as you mentioned, states are drawing lines for redistricting, and that's how we decide who gets power in this country, and it stays in place for 10 years. And we don't have the ability to have those plans approved by the Justice Department in advance. In Georgia, where Advancement Project has litigation, there will be a local election for the mayoral race that will be under this new law. In Florida, where we also have a lawsuit, there will similarly be local elections, and we have a congressional race that is coming up to fill a vacant seat. And so time is a ticking, and we still don't have any protections. And what is problematic is that the president he said the F word with regard to the ceiling, the debt ceiling. He talked about the filibuster. We have yet to hear him talk about the idea of modifying the filibuster or eliminating the filibuster to protect voting rights. And so the time is up. He's got to act, stop putting us on the back burner. Voting rights is not just about us, it is about our country, it is about our democracy. And so we need him to step up and act like he really cares and that he wants to deliver for us.
And just to add to
LaTosha, I want you to weigh. Right. I wanted you to weigh in on that anyway. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that as he also has to understand what is at stake. So this isn't just like, let me do this for the Black people. This is, you got a midterm election that is coming up right now, right? And Black voters, what we saw in this last election, had it not been for the turnout of Black voters, he would not be in office. The Democrats would not have control of the House and the Senate. And so now we're looking at an agenda. We've got to do there's the Janet Jackson question. What have you done for me lately? That is a valid question that Black voters are considering as we're looking at going into the midterm elections. We're no longer going to be able to be taken for granted, but we do expect him to deliver and use the full weight of his office. He was in the Senate. We're talking about Manchin and Sinema, but he was in the Senate for almost 40 years. He sold himself as he was the man that knew how to work in the Senate, knew how to get things done.
Right.
Then my question is, when are you going to get it done?
Well, but LaTosha, what if he knows? I mean, this is, like you say, he's been around a long time. He was in the Obama administration when in the first midterms they lost in historic ways, both in the House, both in Congress and in state houses around the country. It was truly historic. He knows how this works. So maybe he knows and he's making a calculation that he's going to take this chance that he can jump in late and get it done, or even if he doesn't get it done, they have hinted that they think that we can out-organize the voter suppression, which is not true.
It's crazy.
What if he's fully cognizant of the fact that we may lose?
I have no doubt.
Democrats may lose the House.
I know.
I have no doubt that he's fully cognizant of what he's doing, and I think that he's making a choice. And I think once again, and we've seen this from white Democrats in the past. We've seen it in terms of going forward. I think that we are in this particular place that he thinks that we have nowhere to go, and that in many ways our vote is being taken for granted. The bottom line is we're not even talking about a policy issue that can be very divisive. At the end of the day, we're talking about a fundamental democratic right. This should be a layup. This should be a non-negotiable for him. And if he had come out early on saying, under all circumstances, we're going to pass this, I think we'll be further along. He did with Afghanistan. He's shown and demonstrated that the things that he wants to do, right, that he's willing to do it. It did not bode well for us to sit and look at our brothers and sisters from Haiti, right, with people on horses that looked like they were at some time a point of enslavement in this country, that we were seeing those images. That's under his administration. He has to be accountable for that. When we're talking about cuts for HBCUs, that's on his watch. He has to be accountable for that. We still don't have a George Floyd or Policing Act at this point. He has to be accountable for that. And voting rights should have been the easiest slam dunk of them all. And we still, as of now, do not have federal voting rights protection.
Judith, do you think that Biden is basically saying, if I get this infrastructure deal through, I'll be giving out so much money that it'll excite everybody, it'll make up for the fact that people are, trying to suppress the votes of mostly Black and brown people, but sometimes people in college and, whoever they consider to be a hippie these days?
Charles, I hope that is not his calculation. I mean, it is important that this infrastructure bill gets done, and it will provide a lifeline to a lot of communities and a lot of people across the country. But Black folks don't forget. Black folks are not going to forget that all of the things that LaTosha talked about, the Haitians at the border, the policing, there was a mandate around policing in this country from the summer of 2020, where people said, we're not going for this any longer. And you, President Biden, we elected you to do something. We elected Congress to do something. There was a mandate. There was a mandate around voting rights. And so he can make that calculation, but my guess is that Black folks understand. And Black folks will not be looking at, well, you did that one thing, but these other things that were very important to us, that were at the heart of this campaign, that you promised to deliver on, you've done nothing. And so, it's one thing to use the bully pulpit. You keep doing that. But we don't need the bully pulpit any longer. We need action. He is someone who understands the Senate. He
Right.
knows what's at stake. And I am afraid that what is going to happen to him and the Democrats in 2022 is that folks are going to remember, and they're just not going to turn out. So what they have to do is turn
Right.
this calculus around to get us back to the table.
LaTosha, this is the last question. It kind of follows up on something you said before about, police reform. The president never really jumped into that. And when the three principal negotiators said that it had failed, he basically issued a brief statement saying they were disappointed and they were going to explore what they could do on their own, which you can only do things like, a few executive orders on that, but you can't really be transformative unless you pass legislation. What is the calculation here? What does that mean to not ever weigh in on one of the biggest things that were concerned to Black people, and then when it fails, you just kind of let that pass with a brief statement, no real address, no nothing, and move on to the next thing?
I think this is going to be unacceptable. At the end of the day, I think there is a gross miscalculation. There's a different kind of Black voters are actually sophisticated voters. And then there's a new group of voters who are in this process that don't have any sense of loyalty to any political party or political affiliation. They're literally seeking to see, they came to this process. Many of them were activated because of what the George Floyd uprisings. And so I think this is a critical issue in our community. We've shown that, as Judy said, there was a mandate that we saw literally over and over again. And we've seen that with the removal of DAs, with the electing of new people in the office, that we want something different. And I think that it would be a miscalculation to undermine or to underestimate the power of Black voters when we choose not to come to the polls in a way that's intentional, because of our agenda is not, the issues of our agenda are not being looked after.
LaTosha Brown and Judith Browne Dianis, thank you both for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.